let's get started by just introducing meditation in general. This is a word that we're hearing a lot more these days, which is really cool. But what does it mean? What is meditation? So when we think about that word, 9 times out of 10, we get this image of somebody kind of sitting cross-legged, I don't know, like on a mountaintop or something with their eyes closed, totally relaxed, right? Totally zoning out, or I don't know, zoning in, or whatever you want to call it. But this sense of relaxation is something that is present in, even if you're not really familiar with meditation, it's almost, we like really identify with that. And for good reason. Meditation is a great tool for relaxing you. But how? How does it relax you? So this is something that isn't always, I think, presented clearly when introducing meditation. What's going on? Why does it work? Right? What's happening that's making me feel relaxed? So meditation is actually a technique that trains your mind to become familiar with something. It's kind of a weird definition. Familiarizing our mind, is not not a phrase we toss around a lot, right? But we are familiar with a lot of things. If we think about something we're very familiar with, like walking, right? We've been walking probably a long time, and we can walk and do a bunch of other stuff. We're looking at our phone, we're talking to somebody, we're thinking about work, right? We can walk this kind of complex mechanics of moving our body forward. We're doing it without really any thought because we're so familiar with the mechanics of walking, both mental and physical, right? Now, when you were a kid, a little babe, walking didn't come that easy, right? It took some time before you were able to walk, right? The first couple of times you tried, you're falling over. And then even when you got it, it didn't look so graceful, But over practice, a little bit each day, walking became easier to you because it became more familiar. So there's a very important connection with familiarity and things coming more naturally to you, right? The more familiar you are with something, the easier it starts to come to you. Right? So the same is true with mental states, which is what we really focus on here with meditation. So relaxation, let's go back to that. Meditation isn't pulling relaxation from thin air. Meditation doesn't equal relaxation. Meditation is a way of teaching you, if you want it to become familiar with what I'll call your relaxed self, right? There is a version of you that is very relaxed and calm and cool and, not anxious and all these, things that we don't want to be. There's a version of you that is like that ideal you, right? And it pops up from time to time. And meditation isn't kind of creating that, but it's teaching you to become so intimately familiar with that version of yourself that what happens? It starts to show up more often, right? It starts to be easier for you to tap into that relaxed state. Same as, learning how to walk or ride a bike or tie your shoe or anything you've learned over time. The familiarity with that activity starts to make it come more naturally. All right. So now, this works both ways, unfortunately, right? Meditation, we're talking about a bunch of good stuff, relaxing, being kind to yourself and others. But what about anger? Do you think you're familiar with anger? We don't have to try to get angry, right? Hey, Nelly, we don't have to try to get angry. It happens like this. Boom, right? Somebody says something to us. We don't have to pause and say, hey, I got to get angry for a second. Give me a little time and then I'll come back and I'll be angry. No, it just happens. And this is because our mind has had a lot of practice getting annoyed, right? More so than being patient. So in this kind of seesaw of anger and patience, our mind's just a little bit more familiar with getting annoyed. And as a result, those feelings start to show up more often. They come more naturally with less effort, right? Whereas patience requires effort. But we can start to use meditation to choose what you want your mind to be familiar with. That's really the beauty of meditation. It's giving you back control over what you want to be familiar with. Right now, your mind seems to be in control. Worry about this. Recall that situation 3 years ago that really annoyed you. You have a project coming up tomorrow. You better worry about that. I mean, even if we're doing something we enjoy, painting, gardening, whatever we like to enjoy, sometimes our mind goes elsewhere and it pulls us away. So what we're going to start to do with meditation is train our mind to obey our commands. And if we want our mind to focus on this thing, we're going to train it to do that. All right? So meditation is about choice, choosing what you want your mind to be familiar with, and then familiarizing your mind with that thing so it starts to come more naturally. All right? Now, that's all well and good, but when we're starting meditation, it's really important to learn how to, what I guess is more formally called pacifying your mind, right? Sort of like taking Advil, my knee hurts, and you take some Advil and your knee doesn't hurt, right? So our mind right now is very busy. It's all over the place. It's been going full steam, redlining all day long, all week long, all year long. And so we have to kind of settle it a little bit, clear out some of the clutter that's going on in our mind, because you don't need me to tell you, when your mind is very agitated or kind of all over the place, it's not operating in the way that we want it to operate, right? It's not always thinking clearly and these kind of things, right? It's why we get anxious. We're worried about things we might not normally be worried about because our mind is all consumed with that, right? So the first thing we're going to do with meditation is learn how to clear our mind a little bit. So if you think about this imagery of a lake. And it's very calm and still, the surface of the water, you can see the reflection, there's no wind or rain, it's a beautiful day, and you are staring at that reflection and you could describe it quite clearly. If the rain started to pick up, right, or the wind started to gust, then what happens to the surface of the water? It starts to, ripple a bit, move, and that reflection becomes less clear. But it's still there. We can still see it, right? A little bit. It's not as clear. We can still see it. And if it's, a really bad storm, we might not be able to see what the reflection is on the surface of the water, but the reflection is still there. Very important point. No matter what's happening externally, right? The reflection is there. Your mind is the same way. Your mind naturally very calm, very still, peaceful, thinking reasonably about your problems, all those wonderful things that we want our mind to be like. That's its default state. And all of the worries, anxiety, stress, things pulling for our attention all day long, they are like these raindrops or the gusts of wind that are obscuring the surface of the lake. And all of the clutter in our mind is obscuring peaceful you, right? But it's still there, right? We don't have to go get it. It's still there. We just got to kind of clear away some of the clutter, and there we're going to find it, all right? And the more we do this with meditation, the easier it's going to be for you to connect with relaxed you. And it's going to start to show up more often and without so much effort, which would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I think so. So what we're getting to is we're going to start by learning how to do breathing meditation. And if you wanted to look fancy at a party or something like that, this is more formally called single pointed concentration. We are going to focus so exclusively on one thing, single pointed, right, that all the other things that are clamoring for our attention, worries about tomorrow, think something happened today, they're going to start to fade a little bit into the background, almost as if they're not there, right? Similar to if you ever felt like in the zone or flow state or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of a similar thing, but we're going to learn how to do it intentionally, right? So we're not multitasking, which is tough for us because we're expert multitaskers. We do it all day long. We're really good at it. So we're asking our mind, instructing our mind to focus on one thing, our breath, right? And we're just going to kind of pay attention to when our mind starts to do something else or be like, oh, yeah, let me think about that. And then whenever we notice that happening, we're just going to, say to ourselves, not right now. I'll get to those thoughts later. And then we're going to bring our attention back to breathing. So this process, choosing to focus on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, bringing your attention back to breathing, that's meditation. That is training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. Cool? And we're going to relax a little bit by doing it. Okay, so we're going to do a little breathing meditation here together, and it's not going to be very long. This is maybe the most common misconception about meditation. You do not need to meditate for hours on end. We're going to do something very short, maybe like 5 minutes or so. I don't know. I don't really count, but it's going to be pretty quick, and the instructions are pretty straightforward. You're going to sit there. I'm going to be guiding us through this, but you're going to focus on your breath. Whenever you notice your attention has moved on to something else, it's no longer exclusively focused on your breath. We're just going to be like, not right now to those thoughts. Bring your attention back to breathing. As many times as you need to do that process, that's fine. That's meditation. Okay? Let's give it a shot. So make sure you're feeling comfortable wherever you're sitting. You do not need to sit on the floor cross-legged or whatever you see people do. You can sit in a chair like I am. You can lay down. If you had a long day, want to lay down, go ahead. You can sit on the floor if you'd like to. Whatever's comfortable for you, doesn't really matter. Okay? And you can go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, first things first, take a moment and check in. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? In this exact moment. Maybe you're feeling tired. Maybe you're feeling energetic. Maybe you're feeling happy, or maybe you're feeling a little melancholy. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We're not doing anything about it. We're just noticing. This is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts moment to moment for the purpose of being able to respond to those thoughts skillfully. So just ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And having done that, you can now turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in and out. Gently and naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths. You do not need to forcefully exhale the air. Just breathe as you normally would, very naturally, in and out. And give yourself permission to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. Following the air as it enters your nose, and then following the air as it exits. fully focus on every moment of breathing in and out, gently, naturally. At some point, you may notice your attention drifting a bit. Maybe your mind is trying to pull you to think about something that happened earlier today. Or maybe you're thinking about something that you have to do later, after this class ends. Whenever you notice that this has happened, we can just gently say, "Not right now," to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. And then purposefully guide your focus back to your breath. Back to breathing in and out, gently and naturally. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. This moment, which gives way to this moment, this moment, this moment. Allow yourself to relax into your chair or cushion in this very moment. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever it drifts. This process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, being able to bring your attention back to breathing, that is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to be calm, peaceful, to access your relaxed self. How wonderful. So just for the next few moments, continue to breathe in and out, gently, naturally. And just enjoy sitting here, breathing. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back. How'd that go? So that's a pretty traditional, straightforward breathing meditation. There's a lot of different kind of styles of breathing meditation. This one's pretty basic, pretty traditional. We're just making a choice. We're going to choose to focus on our breath, and we got a little spy. Our mind's like a little spy, and whenever our little spy is like, "Hey, your mind's kind of drifting a bit," we're gonna be like, "Oh," and then we're gonna bring it back, right? Very gently. We're not kind of getting annoyed at ourselves for having our mind drift. Minds drift. That's what they do. It means it's working. So if this was your first time meditating, maybe you're like, "Hey, my mind was all over the place." Yeah. And I'm here to tell you that that's very normal. I've been meditating a long time. My mind still goes all over the place, right? This is a practice. It is absolutely kind of like a slow burn, and it's going to take time for this to feel normal. Right now, your mind is like, what are you doing? Your mind's like, hey, I don't know what this new thing you're trying here, but I like to think about a million things at once. That's what I've been doing my whole life. And so I don't really want to focus on one thing. There's resistance, right? Our mind is resisting. But over time, we're going to train your mind to look forward to focusing on one thing, right? It's going to be like, oh, you want to focus single pointedly on your breath? Cool. But it's going to take some time. All right. Nelly, pretty good. Good. I'm glad. Deja, felt amazing. Haven't done a guided meditation in a while. Well, an excellent segue into what our topic is going to be today is talking about how we can think about different ways to ensure that we're kind of setting ourselves up for success with our meditation practice. And if you haven't done it in a while, maybe this is a good opportunity to reevaluate if you want to get back into it, right? Cool. Okay, so we're going to start talking about that, and then we'll do another short meditation towards the end of the live stream. But if you have any questions about breathing meditation, anything that we did, any questions or things that came up while you were meditating, you just ask me. Again, you don't have to wait for me to stop talking. Just ask me at any time, okay? So this creating a meditation routine is extremely important. Why? We're going to go back to that word familiarity, right? Think about like muscle memory. I live out in Colorado. I'm a big skier, right? Now I have the luxury of being able to go ski, pretty often in the winter because it's very accessible. Now, somebody who doesn't live near the mountains is probably not going skiing as much. And so it's harder to build up that muscle memory, right? These weird mechanics of sliding on snow, it will take longer probably to become natural, right? Just because less consistent practice, right? Mental familiarity works the exact same way. So we were talking a lot about relaxing, kind of connecting with relaxed you, and the more familiar you are with doing that, the easier it comes. It's the same with kindness, the same with patience, the same with kind of being happy for other people, right? All of these wonderful mental mind states that take a lot of effort for us right now, we can start to tilt the scales more towards them coming naturally just by practicing consistently, routine, right? So routine meditation, very good for becoming familiar with all the things we're learning doing meditation. And it also kind of normalizes this process. I've used that word a little bit before, that our mind is not really used to this. It doesn't think this is like a normal thing, right? So there's resistance, and doing consistent meditation is going to kind of shift our mind a bit into being okay with focusing on one thing instead of a million, and kind of looking forward to it, even, dare I say. Right? So that's why routine is really important. And unfortunately, this is like the hardest part of anything, right? Getting into a routine, whether it's working out, exercising, or I don't know, having a, healthy breakfast in the morning, right? All of these things that we know are good for us. It's hard to get into the routine. Once the routine is established, well, then it's just a part of our life. It doesn't seem that daunting, but getting to that point can be challenging, right? And meditation is no exception, right? So there's a couple of tips that I've found to be really helpful, that I want to talk about with regards to figuring out what meditation routine is going to work for you. And everyone is different, right? And even if you've been meditating a while, the routine that you started with might not be the same one that's going to work really well for you now, right? Things are constantly changing. So this is a really healthy thing to think about every once in a while. Hey, is there anything I can change to make my meditation routine work better for me, fit into my busy schedule? We're all pretty busy, right? So the first thing that I would suggest doing is what I'll call picking a project. And this is something that I struggled with a lot when I first started, because I was really excited about learning meditation, and there's a lot of different things that you can do with meditation. You can work on anxiety, you can work on, loving yourself more, being kind to others, recognizing kind of your gratitude for others is countless, right? And what I started to have happen is I would just be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and meditate, and then I'll just see we'll see what happens, right? And I found my mind drifted a lot when I did that. And I got some good advice from one of my teachers, that I should pick a project and just stick with it for a little while, right? So if you're new, the project I would suggest you stick with is breathing meditation. Exactly what we did. Very, simple and straightforward. And, if you come back next Wednesday and we're talking about a new topic, that's great. We'll explore that. But then continue to just kind of focus on breathing meditation. We want to become so familiar with that one project that what happens, it starts to just flow pretty naturally. We don't really want to start bouncing around all over the place, particularly when we're new, right? Because this is a very new thing, and we have to train our mind so it feels not new, feels familiar, right? So picking a project, really important. If you have been meditating a little while and maybe you're here to work on anxiety, that can be a project, thinking about what are some of the things that are making you upset, right? There's countless projects that we can do, but pick one, right? The next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is so important, is picking a time and a place that works for you. Now, you might live in a very beautiful area, and perhaps you live a 10-minute drive from a gorgeous lake that you love to go walk around this lake, and it's breathtaking and the birds are chirping. It's wonderful. And I agree. That sounds very wonderful. But there might be a temptation for you to be like, I know, I'll go to the lake and meditate, right? Now, as wonderful as that might be, sometimes, inclement weather, we're really busy, we're stressed out, and even driving 10 minutes to this very serene place can sometimes be off-putting for us. Like, I don't have time. I can't do it, right? So when you're thinking about your meditation spot, right, this place that you're going to kind of transform into your little meditation spot, accessibility is extremely important, right? That's why I recommend, in your house, right? It's very accessible to you, or your apartment, you're there a lot. But maybe your house is really busy, or, it's very stressful for you. All right, well, then what about maybe in the car, in the driveway before you go into your stressful house, or before you go into work, right? Think about places, situations that you're naturally in a lot, very accessible, and then try to see if that's going to work for you for your meditation spot, right? And kind of an offshoot of that is time, right? Now, when I started meditating, I was like, I know, I will meditate in the morning because that is what a responsible adult would do. They'll wake up early and then they'll have all of these things accomplished by 7 a.m. or, whatever. But hey, here's a spoiler. I'm not a morning person and I still am not. So meditating in the morning when you're a morning person can sometimes be when you're not a morning person, can sometimes be challenging because you feel really stressed. You're always late, right? I always wake up, I'm late, I'm stressed. And so my mind is already even more busy than normal. And meditation can be really good for pacifying that. But when we're just starting, just learning, it's so helpful to find a time that you're relatively not that stressed, right? So for me, I started meditating after work. I finished my day, and then I would come home and I would do a little 5-minute meditation, and that really worked for me. So you might be a morning person, and maybe you love waking up early in the morning. Great, go for it. But be honest with yourself about what time of day is relatively low stress for you, and see if you can work in a short meditation in that time frame. And stick to this time, right? There is a temptation to be like, I'll meditate today, right? Today is, it's a big time frame. And what happens when we say, I'll meditate today, as opposed to I'll meditate at 6 p.m. after work, is it's easier for us to bail, right? Let's say we set I'll meditate today, right? And then in the morning comes, we're like, not right now, I'm too busy. And they come from work like, I'm so tired, right? I'll meditate later before bed. And then we're like, I'm too tired, I'm going to bed. Right? It's easier to push it off when we don't have a kind of set time. We're training our mind, hey, 6 p.m., whatever, is meditation time. We're going to do it for 5 minutes. Let's go. So we want to think about a good time, a good place, and then stick to it. Not stubbornly, though. If it's not working, reevaluate. But see if you can stick to it, right? And I mentioned this a little bit before, but huge question that comes up. How long do I meditate for? Do not, I'm telling you right now, do not try to meditate for any longer than like 5 or 10 minutes if you're getting started. And that might even be way too much for you. Again, everyone's different. We all have very busy schedules, different levels of busyness. You might only have 2 minutes in the morning to meditate. Cool. Maybe that's too much. Maybe you only have a minute or 30 seconds or, 20 seconds. It doesn't matter as long as you're being honest with yourself about what you can consistently commit to. That is what you should do. All right? If you take nothing else away from today, be honest with yourself about what you can consistently commit to. Sometimes I tell people, think about how long you would like to meditate, and then you cut that in half. Right? But it's all about just kind of being honest with yourself and seeing what's going to work for you. Right? Another tip that comes up a lot is a question I get asked: can I use music? Right? There's a lot of people use music to help them meditate. Maybe it's blocking out some of the noise that's going on in your house or whatnot. You can use music to meditate. That's fine. What I would say is also try to do some meditations without music. And the reason is that one of the most valuable things to recognize about meditation is you don't need particular external conditions to do it. You don't need to retreat to a mountaintop. You don't need to sit out in the sunshine, as lovely as that would be, right? You don't need perfect quiet. You don't need music. You don't need any of those things. You might like them, but you don't need any of those things in order to meditate. You just need yourself, your breath, and a little bit of patience, right? So if you're going to use music, cool, go for it. But also try to weave in sometimes we're not using it, so that way you're not getting dependent on music to relax. Because you might not always be in a situation where you can listen to music to relax, right? And so if that is the only thing that relaxes you, well, that's going to be pretty frustrating if you can't use it. So doing both, if you're going to experiment with that, I think is a good idea, right? So we talked about time, we talked about place, we talked about how long, and then the last one that I want to talk about is pacing yourself, right? So all of these things, time, place, routine, all of them, they kind of weave into pacing yourself. There is a temptation when we become excited about something new, we get inspired about something, we go all in, right? Committing a massive amount of energy towards something. And while this might show some good results early on, there is the risk of kind of burning out, right? I like to say we're going to be a river, not a waterfall. So if you think about a waterfall, massive amount of energy, the water's pouring over the cliffs, right? And what's happening to the water? It's splashing everywhere. Some of the water droplets are going flying over here. Some of them are going flying over there. Not all the water droplets make it down into the, the lake or river or whatever is at the bottom of the waterfall. Now, if we're a river, it's going a little slower than a waterfall, but all of the water is kind of getting where it's got to go, right? So being a river, like a wide, gentle, flowing river, is what we want to think about when we are planning our meditation, right? We don't need to go meditate for an hour. We don't need to do it 8 times a day. Don't do that. We need to be a slow-moving river getting towards our goal consistently. All right? Cool? So I want to do a meditation that is based around pacing yourself, right? Patience and pacing yourself, because I think this is really important. We can be really hard on ourselves. Oh, I should be making more progress than this. Why is my mind all over the place, right? So we have to learn how to pace ourselves and be patient. So I want to do a short meditation that kind of incorporates some of that stuff. Any questions on routine? Anything that we talked about that maybe didn't make sense, you have a question on? There's a lot of other factors that you might want to think about. These are just some of the big ones that I think are important. Oh, another one, you can breathe. You don't have to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth, even though that's kind of how I do it. You can breathe through your mouth and out through your mouth. It doesn't matter. Don't try to change the way you breathe to meditate. Just breathe. All right? We don't want to have our mind be focused on, am I breathing right? It doesn't matter, right? We're just focusing on something. That's another one that comes up a lot. All right. All right. So if you have any questions about any of this, you can feel free to ask me. If not, let's do another meditation. It's going to start very similarly to what we did before. We're going to do some breathing meditation to relax. And then I'm just going to add something on in the end. It's going to be a little bit of a fun visualization, guided visual meditation. And you just kind of listen to it and have a grand old time, and I'll lead us through it. All right? Okay. Now, was your original seat that you chose comfortable? We're going to reevaluate it, right? Maybe that you're like, yeah, that chair, I got to get rid of that chair. That chair's not comfortable. Maybe go find a different spot, right? Cool. Maybe now you're tired of hearing me talk. You're like, I got to lay down. This guy's talking a lot. So find a comfortable spot. Go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide us through another short meditation. Okay. Once again, just take a moment, check in. How are you feeling now? We're not comparing it to before. Before is gone. We're only concerned about now. This moment. This moment. How are you feeling in this moment? And having checked in, you can once again make a choice, choose to focus single-pointedly on your breath, breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Smooth, very normal breathing patterns. You don't need to change the way you breathe. Just follow each breath in and out. And allow yourself to relax. Maybe your mind's starting to drift a little bit, thinking about something that happened earlier or something coming up later. If you notice that happening, can just gently say, not right now, to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. And then guide your focus back to breathing in and out, gently and naturally. Following the entire journey of the air as it enters your nose, and following that air as it exits. A moment-to-moment awareness of your breath. As you breathe in and out gently and naturally. As you begin to really settle in with your breath, focusing on each breath single-pointedly, you may start to notice some things about breathing, some subtleties that you hadn't really noticed before. Maybe you're noticing how the air, it feels cool temperature-wise every time you breathe in. And that same air, it feels a bit warmer each time you breathe out. How interesting. Or maybe you're noticing your body participating in your breath, your shoulders rising, falling, your chest expanding, contracting. Every aspect of you, body, mind, breathing. When you are single-pointedly focused on an activity, you start to find some subtle joys in that activity. Right now, you are finding some subtle joys in something as simple and accessible as breathing. How wonderful is that? That you, just by sitting here, breathing, can find enjoyment. So, having engaged in breathing meditation for a little bit, maybe we're feeling a little settled in to our chair or cushion. We're feeling a little more calm, a little more relaxed, a little lighter, whatever. We can then use that relaxed state to think about something, to contemplate. And so today I'm going to guide us through a short contemplation on patience and pacing yourself. So you can just follow along. I'd like you to bring to mind a piece of driftwood in the ocean. Just a single piece of driftwood floating on the surface of the ocean water. Just imagine it. There's nothing else around, just the ocean and this piece of driftwood, and then way off in the distance, so small you can barely see it, is the shoreline. And with each passing wave, a piece of driftwood moves a little bit closer to the shoreline. Sometimes the waves are very calm, and the driftwood moves accordingly, slowly, calmly, peacefully towards the shore. Other times, the ocean might be turbulent, the waves large, tossing the driftwood about, moving faster. The ebb and the flow of the ocean is a great analogy for our life. Some days we're calm. Other days, things are feeling turbulent. But no matter how the external conditions are, calm and desirable, turbulent and undesirable, just like the driftwood, you are moving towards your goal. Pacing yourself, having patience, slowly moving towards your shoreline, towards your goal, your destination. And your destination is to connect with your relaxed self. So just for the next couple of moments, just keep this image in your mind, this image of the driftwood slowly moving towards the shoreline. And make a promise to yourself that you are going to treat your meditation routine like this piece of driftwood. Patient, consistent, moving with the ebb and flow of your life towards your goal. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes, return to dry land. Hello, welcome back. So this is what I would consider a little contemplation on the back end of breathing meditation. Generally, meditation, you start with doing some breathing meditation, and then you do some contemplation, which is what we did here. And we use this image of driftwood in the ocean to kind of link up with some of the things that we were saying, where life is going to kind of sometimes change pretty quickly, right? The things that might be really good for our meditation practice now might not be the same later, right? But it's all moving towards the same goal. And so we can embrace that, and we can reevaluate, and we can be patient with ourselves, knowing we're moving towards our goal. Lee, you can't focus. Your legs are twitching. Oh, okay. So now this is a very good thing you brought up. I want to just touch on this quick. So the most challenging things about meditating is when we start doing this, right? We want perfect conditions. Of course we do. Of course we do. We want no noise. And then sometimes if there's someone's got a jackhammer outside, we're like, hey, I'm trying to meditate in here, or sometimes we have knee pain or like restless leg syndrome or something. And we're like, oh, I can't meditate like this, right? You can. And I know it's challenging. You can meditate despite those things. So even you just being here, like let's say, you're like you said, your legs are twitching, you're having trouble focusing, and you're probably like, man, this isn't really going well for me. But the fact that you are here, like practicing meditation, is all that is asked of you. That it doesn't matter. Like there's no good meditation, bad meditation. You're sitting down and practicing, you're training your mind to focus on one thing, the thing that you want to focus on. And some days, like the ocean, the waves are going to be turbulent, right? Some days it's going to go really well, really calm. But you being there is what's important. All right? Cool. Pat, you had a good experience. Great. Deja, really relaxing. I'm great. I'm grateful for that. I'm great. So we'll stop there today. If you had a good time, I encourage you to come back next week. Every Wednesday, same time, same channel, or whatever. I lead guided meditations, and it's always something different. I try to mix it up a lot. I don't always know what I'm going to do, but it'll be meditation related. I can guarantee it. Nelly, contemplation piece. And the visualization were beautiful. I've been meditating for a while. I'm getting good at it. Thank you. That's awesome. So, and this is like, Nelly, remind yourself that, right, from time to time. Because sometimes I know you're going to meditate and it's be like, oh, my mind's all over the place. But remember, like, hey, you know what? I'm getting pretty good at this, right? Carol, this driftwood's logging off soon. Thanks for being here. So come back next week if you'd like to. And I saw a couple people subscribing to my YouTube channel. That's awesome. Puts a big smile on my face. If you haven't, consider doing it. Really helpful for me and also great for you. You get notified when I'm going live with a meditation. All my old videos are available to be rewatched. Lee, there you go. So you can rewatch all my old videos. So subscribe if you like. You can always unsubscribe if you get annoyed by me later on. And then Janelle hinting at my next little plug is I teach one-on-one classes. So maybe you're like, hey, I think this is really cool. I love this. I really want to focus on my anxiety or being kinder to myself or something. That's what the one-on-one classes I teach are really good for. We can focus on something that's pertinent to you. Maybe you got a real badass meditation routine already and you don't need some of this information. Cool. We can focus on something that's really pertinent to you. So if that is interesting to you, a one-on-one class, you can email me and we'll find a time that works. I do them over Zoom. Very laid back, very casual. It's not anything stressful or anything like that. How much are my one-on-one classes? I charge $40 for an hour class. Cool. Thanks for asking. Okay, so I'm going to put my email in the chat now, and I'm going to concentrate single-pointedly on typing it so I do not make spelling errors. Keith at meditationbreaks.com. Woo, I did it. So that's my email. If you're interested in a one-on-one, email me. If you have a question that comes up when you're trying to do meditation on your own, email me. Go ahead and email me whenever you want. All right. Nelly. All right. I like that. I'll see you next week. Good. Jan, first time won't be my last. I'm glad to hear that. Glad you had a good experience. Chad, thanks. I will respond to your email. I'm sorry, my friends. Patrick, thanks for being here. Deja, thanks for being here. I'm glad that you had a good first experience. Give it a shot. Meditation is awesome. Even something as simple as a 2-minute breathing meditation once a day can do amazing things for your entire day and your life. So I encourage you to give it a shot. What do you got to lose, right? You just sit there with your eyes closed for a little while. It's not that bad. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come learn with me. And I hope to see everyone next week.